In the summer of 2004, Mark Richard Hobson just left the hospital grounds, a ploy to throw his mother off his trail. He lied about visiting his girlfriend and her twin sister in the hospital after they both was in a car accident. Little did she know, he just viciously murdered one of them earlier that day and was about to go on the prowl to commit his third and fourth murder on an unsuspecting elderly couple. Welcome to Howtodealyt. Leave a like down below, subscribe if you already haven't, and share this video with other true crime junkies like yourself. Now let's begin. Mark Richard Hobson was born on September 2nd, 1969, in Yorkshire, England. He had a normal childhood for the most part. One of his teachers even recalls Mark being very well behaved and so ordinary that he was almost anonymous. In 1991, Mark moved in with his girlfriend and her two children from a past relationship. They got hitched in 1993 after the birth of their daughter. His wife described him as pretty much the perfect husband. He willfully took on the role of the dad for her kids. No signs of aggression, rarely any arguments, a completely peachy life. It wasn't until 1998 when he started working as a doorman at Cannes nightclub in Selby, where his personality and attitude would begin to change drastically. He began drinking more than usual, basically abusing alcohol, started smoking cannabis, and got into a bad habit of trying any drugs he can get his hands on. Around this time, he began acting more erratic and became more violent. On one occasion, a drunken Mark returned home, opening the fridge for a fresh cold one. Not remembering that he finished all the beers, he grabbed his stepdaughter by the throat, accusing her of stealing his beers. On New Year's Day, 1999, Mark seemingly walked out on his family. The same family he worked so hard to keep and maintain. His wife says he left without giving a reason. There was no one else involved. He just didn't want a married life no more. It was bizarre. I couldn't believe it. He turned to pot and drinking heavily. He never drank when we were married, but now he got out of his face. He became like a zombie. His life just went completely off the rails. Through a mutual friend, he then met Claire Sanderson, a female twin who was in her mid-20s. The two got close really quick, and both shared problems with alcohol addiction. They were bad influences on each other, as they both spent a lot of time drinking. Sadly enough, the two became violent toward each other, even in front of other people. Mark even had a disturbing nickname for her. He called her 8-Ball for the amount of bruises he would give her. Even though they had a toxic relationship, she would claim to others that she loved him. While at work one night, he confessed to a colleague how he felt like he had chosen the wrong twin, and how he will make her twin sister his. On July 9th, 2004, Mark had written down a to-do list, also a list of things he needed, such as large trash bags, fly repellent spray, air fresheners, and tie wraps. Basically, a list of things needed to commit his first murder. The next day, on July 10th, 2004, as the couple returned home from a night out drinking, Mark beat Claire in the head 17 times with a hammer and then strangled her to death. He then dragged the body upstairs to the bathroom, washed her up, and wrapped her body and head in trash bags. He kept her body in his room for a week, talking to her, telling her that her death was rushed, but how he was going to have fun murdering her twin sister. Exactly 1 week later, on July 17th, Mark called Claire's twin sister Diane and asked her to come over under false pretenses that her sister had a fever. Upon her arrival, Mark closed the door and began beating her in the same manner he did to her sister, by hitting her in the head repeatedly with a hammer. He hog-tied her before torturing her with razors and scissors. He sexually assaulted her after burning off her pubic hairs, then stabbed her in the genitals. Her left nipple was bitten off, and since it was never recovered or found, it has been determined that Mark ate it, making him a cannibal. The next day, the twins' father and Claire's boyfriend went to Mark's house with growing concerns over the girls. Mark wasn't there, but they did find the twins' decomposing bodies wrapped in garbage bags. Around this time, Mark called his mother for a ride to the hospital. Continuing to spin these web of lies, he claimed that the twins was in a car accident and he was on his way to check up on her. She drove him there with no idea what her son had done. The cops made their way to Mark's apartment to pick up the bodies and look for evidence or any clues as to where Mark might have run off to. They did find that list Mark was working on, proving that he was planning these sickening crimes. They also found a list of people who they believed he was going to target next. That list included the twins' parents and his ex-wife's parents. The next day, while still on the run, Mark broke into the house of an elderly couple. James and Joan Britton was a retired couple in their 80s, enjoying their golden years. While looking for money or jewelry, Mark decided to pick up one of the walking canes and beat both of them to an untimely death. He even grabbed a butcher's knife and stabbed Joan in the back while she was on the floor. He stabbed her with such velocity that the blade went through her body, wedged into the floor, and breaking off the handle. Mark is now, at this point, England's most wanted man. 8 days into his hiding, he went to a gas station to get a drink and some cigarettes, but the clerk recognized his face from being posted everywhere and called the poison blue. They discovered him hiding in a ditch, in between a thorn bush and a septic tank. Upon being arrested, Mark said to the arresting officers, "I'm a f***ing killer, aren't I?" He admitted right away that he murdered the twin girls, but had no recollection of the elderly couple. He claimed to be on numerous drugs, such as cocaine, ecstasy, and alcohol for weeks. On April 18, 2005, Mark Richard Hobson pleaded guilty to 4 counts of murder and was sentenced to life in prison, with the recommendation that he should never be released. He filed for an appeal on the grounds that he should have been given a more lenient sentence because he admitted to all 4 murders at the earliest opportunity. The judge denied, reminding the court of how horrific the murders were. Before Mark's court case, he was placed in solitary confinement for 3 months after attacking Ian Huntley, a former school caretaker convicted of the Soham murders, and scalding him with a bucket of boiling water. Mark is currently being held at HM Prison Wakefield, nicknamed Monster Mansion, England's highest security prison.